Imagine if you're going on a cruise and you fracture the very hand that you used to write. That would be pretty overwhelming, and the cruise still goes on. So today I'd like to share with you how this harrowing experience of fracturing my wrist actually became the best year of my life. So let me begin the story for you. It started on a cold, dreary January day. We were getting on the boat in Long Beach. It was planned to have this torrential rains, and we said, what a best time to go on a vacation. As we got on the boat, we're taking a 4-day weekend cruise, and it was beautiful. This was our first time on a cruise, and there's 4 different areas that you can go ahead and eat. They have nightclubs, they have comedy, they have trivia, and if you have any kids, they'll be well taken care of. So we were naturally at home. The next day, it's kind of overcast, and as we arrive into Ensenada, which is our one and only port, we're really excited. We're up at the crack of dawn, and as we go outside to go ahead and look, it seems as though there's a little bit of moisture there, and I said, well, I better run back up and go to the room and get my coat, because I wouldn't want to get wet or anything like that. No need to change the suit. It's just a little drizzle, Remember those words. So we go into town, and we catch this bus. And we go to the place that anyone who goes to Ensenada has to see. It's called La Bufadora. It is the blowhole. Now, we get on this bus, and it's like a roller coaster ride. And it's like we haven't left Los Angeles behind, because it could have been a Starbucks, there was a Costco, there was, you name it, it was like LA was here in Ensenada. And as we took that path and we went into the deeps and the depths of Ensenada, the scenes became truly more majestic. It was absolutely incredible. So it seemed like forever. About an hour later, we bumped into our destination, and we get there, and there's a street lined with businesses. Everyone's saying, come, we have a special deal for you today. But we were going down to see La Bufadora. Now, if you've never seen this place, you walk down this path, and what you see in front of you is these beautiful cliffs. And they're in a small area, and there's this water that's shooting up, and it's as if there were droplets of rainwater falling before your eyes. It was so incredible that we must have stood for 10 or 15 minutes in awe. Unbelievable. And as I leave that spot, I remember that there was a store that I saw along the way, and I needed to go pick this up because I thought it was just absolutely beautiful. And as I went into the store, she said, you need to come to the back. And so I went to the back of the store, and as I pulled out this beautiful color, I put it in my arm, and I proceeded out the door, and I was going just a little bit too fast, and as I got around the last corner, I slipped, and I fell, and I fractured my right arm. But I had to catch the bus. And the first thought that came through my mind is, when I get back, how will I drive to my 7 schools in 5 districts and not be able to drive? So we get to the boat, and on the boat is the medic. And we tell the medic that, is there any way, San Diego's just 45 minutes, we can take a cab, we can get there. Lady, the cost of your cruise is less than the cost it would take to take a cab there. And so he goes ahead and he puts me in this half cast. That was a pretty terrifying experience. And he gives me some medicine to, I'll call, dull the pain. It doesn't work. It doesn't really work. And my first challenge is this. Am I going to spend the rest of my 2 days in a room getting seasick, or am I going to try and make the best of it? And I decide that because I'm a happy person, that I should go out. And my husband says, yeah, we're going to get you in the show, we're going to put you on stage, and our video is shown on this cruise of Rosalind and her husband, how much they know each other, with this huge monstrosity on my arm. And everybody is coming up and congratulating us. Well, we get to LA, and it's like God decided to reward us. There's a torrential rain that's going ahead and coming down, and it's thundering and it's lightning, and it's like a preview to when I get to the doctor's office. Notice how I told you when I fell I didn't cry? Well, the tears came when the doctor went ahead and said that if I didn't take care of my wrist, I could be damaged for the rest of my life. That's what nearly brought me to tears, is not being able to use this hand. And so she put on the cast, And I quickly brought myself together and I said, so when do you think I can return to work? I'm supposed to start a class in 2 days. And she said, well, as soon as, this thing was huge, it was absolutely huge. As soon as you can take this arm and put it above your head just like this. And so I set my first goal. There's only one problem. There's only one problem. When I got home, there wasn't anything I could do. I couldn't put on my clothes. I couldn't pull on my socks. I couldn't pull on my shoes. And it was, oh my gosh, how was I going to do this? Well, it's amazing. I had one thing, and I had a voice. And I wasn't shy. And so I brought a brigade of people to come in and help me. There was the ones who took me to get my hair washed. There was the ones that helped me organize the stuff on my desk. There was the ones that helped me type my syllabus. And so it's not a clear road, but when I got back to school, this bent-up hostility blossomed into inspiration that became an affection to my students. And I said, as I stand here in front of you with this monstrosity on my arm, you might have fear in public speaking, but if I can do this, I'm going to turn you into champions. Well, fast forward to the speech competition, this new school that waited for me. The students in that class got a second and a third place prize. And I was in such awe. I don't know if I was happier that moment or when I went to Santa Monica College and I said to the students in that classroom, one of you in this classroom is going to take the first place prize. Now, what usually happens in these speech competitions is maybe 2 or 3 people join, and maybe 5 people come out. I had like nearly half the class come out to cheer them on, and there were 7 and 8 people participated. A month from the previous day, one of my students got first place prize. The same year, I fractured my wrist. I had turned this horrible atrocity into a miracle of inspiration to the students in my class. And so, as I stand out here and I look at all of you, and you're saying, well, I got problems. We all have challenges. But I want you to think about the process and the procedure I told you. We all have problems, and when we have those problems, we need to set up a plan. We need to go ahead and we need to take some action. And we need to go ahead and set up small goals and larger goals and prioritize what comes first, what comes second, what comes third. And a lot of us, when we're faced with the adversity, we stop, we quit. And I ask each and every one of you, don't quit. If I could do what I've done with my arm and how I inspired my students, I know that any problem that you have is something that you could go ahead and deal with. And I hope that you can take the toolkit of these ideas that I've told you and change your life for the better, because all of you have the tools that you need to do to go ahead and succeed. And as you go ahead and you make those success, can you please join me and say, as they say, yes, I can. Let's hear a round of applause. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Thank you very much.